some stuff got hot last time Larry was in and I was out, which was, I guess, not the last time Larry was here. Last time he was here, Mark was out, and Larry and I had a good old time. But before that, San Francisco Giants topics on the table, and you and Mark got into it over the notion of develop or compete as opposed to develop and compete.
He was kind of like the pool character, and I was kind of like the green character, except minus the punch.
Oh, I thought you meant J. Michael Green. You're talking Draymond Green. Yeah.
No. I was of the mindset, and I have been of the mindset since opening day, that that this year is kind of like 86 for the Giants, in that this was not a year to contend. This was a year to develop. And then suddenly the Dodgers don't look like the Dodgers. They lose Gavin Lux, and then suddenly their rotation fell apart. And some of my people down in Arizona were like, dude, the Padres are a train wreck. Wait for it to happen. And I'm like, no, I don't believe you. They got too good of a lineup, too good at pitching, too good at everything. Sure enough, Dibs, that guy was right. They are a train wreck. I thought Arizona would be better, but I didn't think Arizona would be, leading the division as we approach July 1st. By the way, I've got a little wager with Ned Coletti, who says that the Dodgers will lead the division by 5 games over the Giants by the break. And I'm like, no.
The All-Star break?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
said,
pretty aggressive.
I'm on the verge of taking that bet.
Well, the Dodgers are 3 back of the Giants, or 3 back of Arizona, half back of the Giants right now. So that would mean a 5.5 game switch between the Giants and the Dodgers between now and about 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, I don't see that.
That's dramatic.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about no head-to-heads either between the Giants and Dodgers. So you would need the Dodgers to go maybe 12-5 and the Giants to go about 5-12 over the next. And I don't even think there's 17 games between now and the break.
And the Giants are 8-2 in their last 10. And they've got a killer pen, and they've got all this young talent. And Casey Schmidt's struggling, but Patrick Bailey ain't. And Matos hit that bomb to down the left field line for his first home run this weekend.
Yeah,
he looks good. And the Giants have a farm system that's producing. So I told Mark that I was of the mindset, hey, let's see him trade Cobb, trade Webb, trade Bart, trade a few guys. Now I think you're probably going to keep your veteran arms. I think Farhan's still very much in the trade market. But now I think it's a matter of which big-time prospect are you maybe willing to trade to go for it this year. And for me, I think it would be Marco Luciano, just simply because you've got the left side of your infield playing pretty well. Right now in the present, you got Crawford, you got this kid Fitzgerald in the minor leagues that's coming up at short. You got Casey Schmidt on the left side of the diamond. You got J.D. Davis swinging it. A guy like Marco Luciano could maybe get you Lucas Giolito or Dylan Cease or a big-time arm. The Giants need another arm or two. And if they get it, they might be able to commandeer the division.
Yeah, the division is seemingly up for grabs. As I mentioned, they're 2.5 back. They're in second. Dodgers are sitting 3 back. At the very least, a wild card is very much in the conversation for the Giants. I think Fangraphs have them at a 70% chance to make the playoffs right now, and that's without any additions at the deadline. And I think you're right, Larry, in terms of as you get closer to the trade deadline, which is about 5 weeks away, July 31st. It's right there in a month and 3 days' time. Mark was advocating an early move. Maybe go out there and make a move long before the deadline. That way you kind of set the market as you get closer to the end of July. The price may go up as the competition ramps up with more teams trying to get into the starting pitching market.
Well, and it's not just starting pitching. I mean, the Kansas City's shopping Aroldis Chapman. I mean, could you imagine Chapman in the 8th and Doval in the 9th?
A couple of soft tossers.
I mean, that would be intriguing. The deal that I was throwing out that I would love to see, I mean, what if you could get like Andrew Vaughn and Giolito from the White Sox? And, or if you could grow the deal and get Dylan Cease and Giolito and Andrew Vaughn in some big monster deal like that, you'd probably have to include a premier guy, and maybe Luciano's that guy. I mean, they got other guys as well. I mean, they got 2. They announced yesterday Kyle Harrison and Carson Wisenhunt will pitch in the Futures game. I don't think those 2 guys are going anywhere.
Right.
But those 2 guys are on the verge of the big leagues. And so maybe those 2 pitchers can help out. But the Giants, for the first time, have guys breaking through out of their farm system for the first time in a long time. And they've got also some pieces that are coveted by other teams that are still in the minor leagues that if Farhan wants to make an aggressive trade and bring in a difference making player or two or three at the deadline, and you know how much he loves to swap guys, that could be coming. I mean, and the Giants, and I think Arizona's a little bit of a house of cards, Dibs.
Agreed.
Mean, they've got Merrill Kelly and that other kid Zach Gallen fronting a rotation that is not great. I mean, it's those two guys at the top, and they've got a couple other arms, but I don't know that Arizona's got the financial wherewithal to add. And I think the Dodgers are gearing up for a big run at Ohtani in the offseason. I don't think they're going to add. Padres are 9.5 back, so this might be the year for Farhan to be super aggressive, and the Giants got a good vibe going right now. They
Great
really
vibe,
do.
and that's why I don't know if you need to be super aggressive, and you probably only need to bring in one starting pitcher, assuming that you're going to have Kyle Harrison up here before too long. Maybe it happens. And I was kind of looking at that stretch coming out of the All-Star break. They've got 13 games in 13 days in 5 cities because they've got that one game against Detroit. You play every single day for the better part of 2 weeks, and if you're going to continue to bullpen 2 of your 5 starting spots, I don't think that bodes well long-term in terms of keeping arms fresh and being able to get guys to be able to pitch high-leverage innings in August and September, let alone October. So that might be the time coming out of the break after the Futures game. Let Kyle Harrison come up and be able to give you 4 or 5 innings and take the pressure off this bullpen.
I'll tell you the number that I looked at this morning that I couldn't believe when I saw it. I had to double check it. I agree with you wholeheartedly on the bullpen games. I'm not a huge fan of the bullpen games.
Right.
But the Giants are 8-4 in bullpen games.
In those games, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good number. And if they can keep that rolling, I mean, the Rogers brothers have been good. Taylor from the left side, Tyler from the right side. The one concern is Luke Jackson. I don't know, has it come out yet what Jackson's injury was? He hurt himself and came out of the game over the weekend. But you add one more bullpen arm and maybe one more bat and one more starter, or get Harrison or Wisenhunt coming out of the minor leagues. That may be all you need. And it's not a stellar year around. I mean, outside the division in the National League, who do you really fear? The Mets were supposed to be a juggernaut. They fell on their face. I'll tell you another guy that I'd be real interested in getting, if I could get him, is Corbin Burns from Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I mean, Corbin Burns went to St. Mary's. He's got the Bay Area connection. He's incredibly durable. He's a dependable, top of the rotation, big time arm.
Doesn't feel like they'll be in sell mode though, Milwaukee, especially in a vulnerable Central Division.
Yeah, but you never know. You never know. I will say this: when you were out and Willard and I asked Farhan about how he looks at the trade deadline, he actually said something I was very surprised at. He's like, I always look at if the playoffs started today, who would be our number 1 starter, who would be our number 2, who would be our number 3. So he's really thinking along the lines of matching up in October, which is awesome to hear from him. So maybe he is thinking about some of these big-time arms. If you can get Stroman, I'd love to see Stroman.
Yeah,
here.
probably cost you a lot more than just Luciano in terms of prospects. And I'm reluctant to really dip into the big-time prospects because Farhan's taken 2 or 3 years to build up the farm to where you're seeing it bear fruit now at the major league level. And you mentioned Wisenhunt. We know Kyle Harrison's coming. Matos just came up, and you're excited about that. And there are more players who are seemingly on the cusp. So I would rather not part with big-time prospects to get a pitcher who's just going to be a rental. You get Stroman in the end of July, you're going to get, 7 starts, and then maybe into the playoffs with Marcus Stroman at the expense of one of your top prospects. That's a no for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Luciano would fetch a ton. And, there's Verlander, there's Cease, there's Giolito, there's Sonny Gray. There's a number of guys out there that potentially could be had. But, I don't know what ultimately will get it done. I will say this. I think, this is one area where I feel pretty good about Farhan. I mean, that J.D. Davis trade he made last summer was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, Darren Ruff for J.D. Davis and 3 arms. J.D. Davis ever since has been your third baseman. He's got power. He plays the hell out of third right now. He's got a tremendous arm. You got 3 young arms to boot. That was maybe Farhan's best deal.
An absolute fleecing is what it was. So
exactly.
And Farhan's been hot. Hard to find a lot of bad trades that he has made over the course of his tenure. And this deadline, maybe his biggest one yet, because the right move could put this team from maybe to a real front runner in what's a watered down National League.